The City in the City is set in a city called Beselu, which is based on various kind of Eastern European cities in a nebulous, undisclosed location at the edge of Europe. And the protagonist is a policeman in the extreme crime squad in Beselu. The book starts with what seems to be a routine murder, and then the investigation becomes more and more Byzantine, more and more conspiracies begin to get uncovered. And the thing about Beselu is that Beselu exists in a very unique relationship with a neighbouring city, another city called Olkoma. And the border between the two cities is really kind of unlike any other border in the world. Borlu, who's the main protagonist, has to journey from Beselu to Olkoma to continue his investigation. Certainly it's not like any journey I've seen depicted, and the relationship between those two cities, which are very, very different. Olkoma is very modern, very advanced, doing very well. Beselu is rather decaying, has a very different culture, is rather depressed. Those two cities live in a very unique but very intimate relationship, and the journey between the two is part of what the story is based around. I really enjoyed trying to think of, my detective, who's by far the main character. It's through his head that we experience the book. It's a first-person narrative. It's his experiences, and this is Inspector Borlu, and he's a career policeman. He's very smart. He's somewhat sardonic, and he has a sense of humour about his job, I think, and he loves his city. So my aim with Borlu is that, by the end of the book, in a sense, the reader has stopped thinking about him. The reader is happily inhabiting his head. I want to try and sort of write, at least one book in every genre I can. So I've already written a sort of Western and a sort of romance, and so I wanted to write a sort of police procedural. There's a question mark over whether it's, what you would call a strictly realist novel as well. That there's a certain sense of, I hope, a certain sense of dream to it. This slightly sort of unreal sense, this slightly dreamlike sense about a detective story. There's something that, the thing about detective novels, even though they're mostly set in the quote real world unquote, they're not real at all. There's something dreamlike and magical about them, and I think that that's partly these moments, these steps, if you like, these holes in logic, not flaws, not problems in logic, but just these moments where you can't see in. I find that incredibly exciting as a reader, and I really like those crime books I read in which you can't necessarily follow every single step, and yet the whole thing makes sense to you, and there's a slight sense of dislocation to it. I find that very exciting.